My name is Adam Whaley. This is my hand tool woodworking bench that I built recently. I, like many people, was inspired by the Samurai Carpenter and many other YouTubers who've built these beautiful hand tool woodworking benches. I wanted to build one as well, but I watched all those videos and I read the Anarchist Workbench book by Christopher Schwartz and kind of took in all those influences. But I had a couple of specific things that I was trying to achieve, and actually all of those books say you got to build the workbench that's right for the type of projects that you're working on. And so since I tend to build slightly smaller things, I didn't think I needed initially an 8 or 6 or an 8 foot workbench. So smaller size. I am probably not going to be living here for the indefinitely, and so I wanted to be able to move the workbench. I didn't want it to be so massive that I couldn't break it down and take it somewhere else. I also am practicing using Japanese hand planes, which you pull instead of push, and so some of the traditional locations of things like the planing stop, I needed to do that a little bit differently. And I decided not to build it initially with a vise built in. Probably don't really know exactly what I need in that regard. And also I decided that to keep the cost down and to make the build a little less complicated, I was going to build the initial workbench around these Rockler, metal Rockler stands. And so if I was going to have a vise, it would probably be a leg vise, but that doesn't really work with these Rockler stands. So I got this wood from a old sawmill that had been torn apart out in Llano, Texas, and basically used this reclaimed wood to laminate this top. From a process point of view, I obviously the wood is pretty weathered and had to remove nails and things like that from it. But then I basically jointed and planed the top and then glued it all together in 2 sections. This is a split top bench, so I do have these two holes here. So these 2 pieces, these 2 sections were laminated together first separately, and then I glued them together with these little insert pieces in the middle. After that, I had to do some hand planing and squaring to make sure that the top was flat, and then I decided I wanted to kind of attach these end caps out of African mahogany, and so I routed a channel in the edge of the bench top, and then I used my dado on my table saw to put a matching dado in the end caps, and then I decided to just attach those somewhat temporarily, just with some lag screws, because I might at some point want to take them off and put a vise on one end or the other. Then I made the inserts basically out of the same African mahogany, and I made one with a slot, and I made one that just kind of makes it a flat over here. Again, those are for tools, or I can use them to put stops in. After that, I attached this front face, which is a really beefy piece of old growth pine, and I used Festool domino to attach that, and then I had to do some hand planing to make sure that that again was now flat with the top. And then I drilled all the dog holes, and I used a spade, just a kind of typical 3/4 inch spade bit to do that. And I went back in after the fact and routed out a little relief around all the dog holes, just to make sure that they don't splinter, and it makes it a little easier to get accessories in and out. I built the shelf, which is pretty straightforward. The shelf in the bottom is just another lamination of 2x4s, again with Festool dominoes for alignment mostly, and then glue to hold it together. And then the last thing that I did is I decided that I did need to add a, I built this little accessory bar down here that has a place for me to store all the holdfasts and accessories that I use on the top of the bench to kind of hold things, all the bench dogs. But then I decided that I needed a planing stop, so I basically drilled a set of holes over here and used my Japanese saw rasp and chisels to make a mortise, a 3x3 mortise, on this sort of big piece of African mahogany, and I can move this up and down as I need to get this planing stop in the right spot. And then finally I decided that I needed a little bit more work holding capability, and so I added a sliding dead man, which I did a little bit differently than some of the ones that I've seen other people do. I just basically added this bottom rail. I sort of used, again, Festool dominoes and some lag screws to basically build this bottom rail, and I put a 45-degree V groove on top of it, and then on the bottom here, instead of routing out a channel into my bench, I actually added a rail out of African mahogany. I just attached that with some screws, and then I routed the channel actually in my my dead man in the top using the dado blade on my table saw, and then a matching V groove on the bottom of my dead man. And this is a really cool old piece of wood. Looks like it came out of a pirate ship. It's got a lot of cool distressing. So I decided not to cut any of the curves on it like a lot of people do with the dead man, just because I liked all the old distressing on here. And then on each end, this is just an open-ended rail, so it can sort of slide in here without needing to worry about it going off the end too much. So that's it. That's what I built, and I finished the entire bench with Odie's oil. Odie's oil is just an amazing finish for keeping the natural look of wood, and smells great, and it's really easy to reapply if you need to. So I used Odie's oil for that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the build video.